You need to know what issues the Republicans stand for, whether or not you're a Democrat. It doesn't matter. The Republicans are in control of all three branches of government: the presidency, both houses of Congress, and the Supreme Court. And it affects you no matter who you are in the United States. And it affects countries outside of the United States, as the United States is really the world's only global superpower. So, what are those 7 items? And they're in no particular order. Now, my name is Michael, and I am an expert on Republicanism 101. So, this is a lesson of what Republicans believe in. And it affects everybody because elections have consequences and things are happening already. And let's start with borders. As Trump says, we're going to build a big, beautiful wall with a big gate for legal immigrants. Now, you may have heard that there's going to be rounding up of people and shipping them back to their countries of origins if they came in illegally. And yes, that's happening. That's already happening. Wait, Republicans, you can't just go throw in illegal aliens, I mean undocumented immigrants, out of this country. That's inhumane. But what Trump wants to do, and he's signed an executive order on it, and ICE can do it, is to deport people who are here not only just illegally, but really specifically that they're criminals. You just don't get to be here. First of all, you crossed illegally in the first place if you came usually through Mexico. And it's not just Mexicans that cross the border, it's people in Guatemala, El Salvador, Venezuela, other countries that come up. And you may have seen the caravans of people coming up paying coyotes. Yeah, they're called that, to get them into the United States illegally and just making a go out of it. But Trump doesn't want to deport everybody. That's not the idea. The idea is if you're committing crimes and you've crossed illegally, you need not to be in this country anymore. So that's going to be enforced now. That was not enforced under the Democrat regime, Joe Biden's presidency, and what Kamala Harris would have enacted if she were now the president of the United States, because they believe in open borders. So Republicans believe we have a border, and that's it. Okay. So what's the next thing? Republicans believe in law and order, the police, and that the police are not the bad guys. I've seen on TV that the police are racist. I've seen them take black men out of their cars and suffocate them and they die. As a matter of fact, police have a very difficult job. I mean, seriously. They have to go into the high crime areas. That's where the police are needed the most. Correct? Is that what you think? And it's not about racism. Yes, a lot of these areas in the inner cities are high crime areas, and that's where you need the police to make those communities safe. Isn't that what the police are for? To protect and defend the public from bad guys? I mean, nobody wants to get robbed. Nobody wants to get shot. Nobody wants to have their car stolen. Nobody wants illegal activity to happen to them. And you need the police, because if you don't have them, well, honestly, that's everyone for themselves, right? And the people in the richer communities still want the police because they want to honestly protect what they have. They don't want just anybody being able to break into their house. They need to be able to call somebody too if something happens, even in gated communities. But we don't believe as Republicans, and I say we because I am a lifelong Republican of over 30 years, that the police are racist. To me, that doesn't make any sense. The police are there to protect everyone. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what country you come from. If you dial 911, the police will come to help you. What's the next thing? Well, let's look at number 5, peace through strength. Now, this is another enforcement kind of issue, but we're not talking about domestic policy. We're talking about foreign policy. And in foreign policy, we have to deal with aggressive countries. Countries, contrary to what you may believe, and I'm not saying you believe it, are not just peaceful by nature. Look what's going on in Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine after Trump left the presidency. We've supported Ukraine and Vladimir Zelensky very greatly during the last 2.5 years of the war going on there with Ukraine against Russia. And Trump is trying to put this to an end, and it's going to come to an end. Wait, Republicans, you're supposed to be the strong on defense party. And once Russia takes over Ukraine, they're going to take over the rest of the Soviet Union and then probably go into Poland. That's what I heard. Now, Russia's going to gain some territory that they've already conquered because the reality on the ground is the reality on the ground. You're not going to push them out. The United States certainly isn't going to send in 500,000 men to push the Russian troops out of there. So there's going to have to be a negotiation, and Vladimir Zelensky can be strong-armed by us because we're supplying him with the weapons to make a peace agreement. Now you're going to say, well, that doesn't seem like peace through strength. Well, we need a peace. The Republicans are not for forever wars anymore. Yes, George Bush got us into the war in Iraq to change a regime which we should never have got into. And other presidents have done that. But the Republican Party has changed in this way. We are not just fighting forever wars that we can't win. Ukraine cannot win that war, and it will come to an end. And there'll be some kind of demilitarized zone. Now, we're also supporting Israel in their war against Hamas. And, there's been a ceasefire. And we're trying to get hostages out of there. And Trump is strong-arming Hamas by saying, they'll be all hell to pay if we don't get the American hostages out. So it's getting Hamas to try to do what we want through strength, saying, look, it's not just Israel you're fighting against. We're the ally here. We're the big boy in the room. And we better at least get our hostages back. So let's look at our next Republican idea that will be implemented now that the Republicans are in power. And that is equality of opportunity. This is not equality of outcomes. This is what Republicans believe. This is why just a few days ago, there was an executive order getting rid of the DEI department. diversity, equity, and inclusion. Wait, Republicans. If we don't have a DEI department for diversity, equity, and inclusion, how do you expect blacks, Hispanics, gays, lesbians, transgenders to get any jobs in this country? Not only hire based on merit, what they have on their resumes, to have a certain percentage, like quotas, of people in their companies. Let's say transgender issues. The Republicans believe there are males and females, and there are scholarships to be had. And you can't, in the Republican world, they don't want somebody born as a male to be able to take scholarships, because that's real money, away from women who have XX chromosomes, not XY chromosomes, and take those scholarships away from someone who would have gotten it, a girl that would have gotten it, had that transgendered athlete not been allowed to go into the school, perhaps. So that's economic as well. So the colleges matter there also. The Republicans do not care necessarily about equality of outcome. It's equality of opportunity. Again, they believe, everybody got to go through the public school system. Yes, some are better than others, but at some point, not everybody ends up at the same place. I have number 3 here as a cultural issue. Pro-life. Republicans are generally pro-life, not what the Democrats call pro-choice as far as abortions go. As you know by now, I would think almost everybody, Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision that allowed women to get abortions and made it legal in all 50 states across the United States, is now overturned. Wait, Republicans, you can't tell all women they can't have abortions. They're not people, fetuses. They're clumps of cells. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you don't have that right. Donald Trump in his first term was able to appoint justices, and enough of them, to overturn that decision. There is not legal abortion in all 50 states now, but it's up to the states. The Republicans are for states' rights and states deciding how many weeks, for instance, a fetus would have to be, so that there would not be any abortions after a certain number of weeks, perhaps. And that's being done all over the United States and has been done. So the states get to decide. Now, it doesn't mean you can't cross state borders and go to another state if your state doesn't provide abortions for women who want to get them. They can go to another state and get an abortion. So it's sending it back to the states in the Dobbs decision of the Supreme Court. So that is what Republicans believe. We don't believe fetuses are just a bunch of clump of cells that are not human beings. Republicans believe that fetuses inside the womb, inside the mother, are real life. They certainly will become real life, if you consider it real life, when they're born. Then nobody thinks you should just kill the baby after it's born. So that's what Republicans believe. So what's next? And I want to hide number 1. Less regulations. Now we're talking about economics and getting out of the way of business. capitalism. So businesses, Republicans believe, should not have the government in their way from making a profit. Businesses are not the bad guy. These climate change laws and regulations on businesses like the automotive industry. Wait, Republicans. Climate change is real. Are you crazy? You're spreading misinformation. Have you seen all the powerful hurricanes lately? And the wildfires in Los Angeles, California itself? Nobody's going to be able to live on this planet. And saying you have to have a certain amount of miles per gallon for your new vehicles. Because they want the auto companies to change how they make their cars so there's less carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. Like, we can really change how hot it is on Earth. Like, we can change it into Venus where it's 900 degrees and nobody would be able, no living thing would be able to survive. Democrats seem to believe we can do that, or that the Earth would become 10 degrees warmer. I mean, Al Gore put out a whole film called An Inconvenient Truth. A lot of you who are old enough saw it, where New York is underwater because the seas are rising, or Florida is underwater. Well, that hasn't happened. I mean, let's be real. That hasn't happened. Greenland, which Donald Trump wants to be part of the United States, still has a bunch of glaciers on it. Okay? So that's just reality. Antarctica is still Antarctica. Nobody can really live there yet. It's still a bunch of glaciers covering an entire continent. So the climate change people and the people who want to save the fish and not have water come down to California from Canada, or have laws that are restricting pipelines from being built and having us not use ANWR in Alaska and all of that gas that you can drill, and we can reduce the price of gas and open the Keystone Pipeline because, oh, God forbid, if you have more gasoline, you're putting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and again, making the temperatures rise. They don't even call it global warming anymore. They call it climate change. Well, the climate always changes, but that's not the point. The point is that stirs economic activity. Energy is one of the things Republicans believe in, having more energy, because it reduces prices. If gas prices are lower, people will drive more, and prices actually will go down, because the trucks delivering goods to stores, well, the price of gas has gone down. That's less of a cost to companies. And then that would be less of a cost to you buying a product. So Republicans are for less regulations because it helps the economy, and Republicans are for getting out of the way of business. Free capitalism as much as possible. Now, finally, and this is Republicanism 101, is tax cuts. Yes, Republicans are for tax cuts for everyone, even the rich. Wait, Republicans, you're the party of the rich. You just want the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer. You don't care about the common man. I don't know who started the idea that the rich are the bad guys and we should tax them. And you may say, well, they're the ones with the money, so let's take that money and we'll redistribute it to the people at the bottom like it's Robin Hood. Well, Robin Hood actually stole not from the rich, he stole from the tax collectors. So that's a false story anyway. And the rich actually pay the most taxes anyway. And the idea is if you cut their taxes, there'll be more economic activity because they'll have more incentive to grow their business even more and make more money, because less of the more money you make is being taken away from even the rich. And then you'll have the trickle down economics that if the rich are having their businesses and corporations make more money, they're going to have to hire more people and pay them money. And then the poor will have more of an opportunity to get jobs because there'll be more jobs to be had because there'll be more economic activity. And that helps everyone. That's capitalism. It's brought more people out of poverty than anything I can think of in human history. And it really is here in the United States where that has happened. Well, that's republicanism and the lessons of Republican issues and the 7 most important Republican issues that will be going into law very, very soon if they haven't started already. And that's what you need to know. So that's it for today. But remember, history happens every day.